Good afternoon. My name is Kyrah Altman, and I am the CEO of Let's Empower, Advocate, and Do. Before I dive into my company, I'd like to bring you back to 2015 with me, my senior year in high school. Picture this. I'm sitting in the passenger side of the car. It's raining. It's dark outside. I'm on the highway, and I'm in a fight with my mom, so I'm sobbing. And I'm a high school student. And all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I see this flashing light, and it's actually an 18-wheeler coming my way. And in that moment, the only thing I wanted was for that 18-wheeler to hit my car so I could die. That's what I wanted, 100%, and that scared me beyond belief. Now, what you have to know is at that time, by day, I was class president, salutatorian, homecoming queen. But by night, I was raising my younger siblings as my own children, and I was struggling with untreated severe anxiety and depression due to living in a broken home for over 7 years. Now, it wasn't until a very special teacher helped me and gave me the strength to seek treatment for my mental illness that I was able to seek help. But at that point, 11 years after being in school, I realized the importance of a school to provide consistency, support, and love to students like me. I also realized I wasn't alone. In the United States, 8 million adolescents suffer from a severe mental illness, which is 1 in 5 students. We also know that in the last year, there have been 1 million more cases of diagnosed depression in young people than in the years prior. And suicide is rising from the 3rd to the 2nd leading cause of death in young people. And these issues become worse because they lead to things like suicide, self-harm, cyberbullying, school dropout, and the list goes on and on. Can you even remember the last time you turned on a TV and didn't hear about some mental health crisis or tragedy involving schools? This problem is exacerbated in schools. After extensive research, we realized that 0 health education classes incorporate mental health into existing health education curriculum. And this is because most state frameworks are 20+ years outdated. We also realized that 70% of students with a mental illness went untreated, failing to receive any treatment at all. And finally, educators, school personnel, guidance counselors received 0 to no mental health training. So they were left reactive to tragedies instead of being able to identify high-risk behavior before a tragedy occurs. The first time I really questioned, how can we prevent these tragedies in the future, was the Sandy Hook tragedy. And this was because at this time, my younger siblings were similar ages to the victims. Now, the solution is a school-based proactive model that LEAD has designed that 1, improves early intervention for mental illness in schools, and 2, empowers educators to identify high-risk behavior before a crisis occurs. Existing attempts to address these problems have failed because they're both temporary and reactive. So we take the proactive approach. Our vision is to become the industry standard for mental health education in schools and youth-serving organizations. Now, LEAD's school-based model has 3 components. First, we have a tri-health curriculum supplement that incorporates mental health into existing health education curriculum. Then we have an online health lab that has screening tools, resource maps for students, as well as it collects data for administrators to see change in real time. And finally, we have training and certification for educators and school personnel, giving them empowerment and proactive education to improve the mental health in their own lives and in the lives of their students. Now, if I didn't have that one teacher who could see signs in me, I might not be here today. So TriHealth, it is a clinician-approved, copyrighted, and evidence-based curriculum. It has been created over the span of 2 years, 6,000+ hours, and is 900 pages, completely comprehensive and holistic. And it's designed to empower students to 1, overcome stigma, 2, utilize self-care strategies when experiencing mental health challenges, and 3, seek treatment before a crisis occurs. Now, this is important because stigma is the #1 reason that youth fail to seek treatment for mental illness. We also have a health lab. So for every student that's enrolled in the TriHealth class, we have a health lab that collects their data, which means that school administrators can see in real time improvements in academic performance, in wellness, in dropout attendance rates, and all of this is available to the district. We also know that because of resource maps and linkages to care providers in the community, schools actually save $416 per student who gets connected to outside resources in the community. We also have been expanding our training and certification. We have 90-minute professional development trainings that empower educators to incorporate trauma-informed teaching, mindfulness, social and emotional learning into the classroom. We also offer 8-hour youth mental health first aid. In 2016, I became the nation's youngest youth mental health first aid instructor, and we have since certified 800 educators in this course. Now, we offer our products for fee for service, which means schools can either adopt or buy our products individually or within district packages, depending on their district size, their needs, and their budgets. Return on investment really comes from increasing grant eligibility within districts, which helps districts make more money. What we do is we know that social and emotional learning and mental health education are proven to reduce truancy, reduce school dropout, and reduce underperformance. All of these things improve grant eligibility. We also know that training educators in mental health education improves employee retention and also reduces compassion fatigue and burnout in staff. Now, we have already begun addressing private schools and charter schools because they have shorter sales cycles and larger budgets for preventative curriculum. We will continue addressing tragedy-struck schools as well as schools within districts with initiatives around mental health because they also have budgeted money. And finally, we'll look to states like New York and Virginia with mandates that require mental health education in existing health education courses. And we will not just wait for these mandates to appear. We're helping to establish them. In 2017, I worked with Senator Jen Flanagan to both write and pass a bill in Massachusetts that incorporates mental health education and tri-health frameworks into 700 high schools in my home state. Now, this is amazing because it gives us first mover advantage. It makes us first to market and creates an immediate need. And we're not dependent or reliant on this for our sales, but it's an added bonus and really helps us have a voice in policy. Now, we are past concept stage. We've been piloting for 2 years in my hometown, Leominster, Massachusetts, where we have the 3rd highest suicide rate in the state. There, over 400 students have been impacted by our curriculum. We have seen that these students are 2 times more likely to report suicidal ideation in a peer after taking our course. We've also seen increases in care-seeking behavior, self-advocacy skills, and knowledge of mental health and mental illness in the students. And finally, one parent even reported that their son did not attempt suicide because of what they learned in our course. We have 4 additional districts in 2 states ready to pilot this month. We also have now a waitlist of 6 additional school districts that will be piloting this fall as well. And this list continues to grow. Now, we will continue expanding our pilot-based programs. We also have taken a calculated risk of expanding our training to other mission-aligned and youth-focused audiences, such as summer camps, youth sports teams, and so on. And this has paid off tremendously. Now our vision has become the industry standard of mental health education in all youth-serving organizations. And we will continue expanding this as well. And finally, we'll scale nationally using a train-the-trainer model. Just this month, we have trained 3 additional instructors, 2 of which are on the West Coast, so we continue to expand. The curriculum purchasing market in the United States is worth $150 million, with 3.3 million students expected to graduate every single year. We also know that the camp industry is worth $7 billion, and the youth sports industry is worth $6 billion, which means we have many viable revenue streams and opportunities. And since 50% of lifetime cases of mental illness begin by age 14, this is a missed opportunity to touch into and tap into an untapped and widely fragmented market. We also are on a growth track. In the last year, we have doubled our revenue, and this fiscal year, we're expected to make over $60,000. By next year, we intend to have a $120,000 profit and continue to scale, supporting the full-time salaries of myself, our COO, and a part-time sales team with instructors. In the last year, we have been featured on ABC TV at conferences to over 3,000 individuals, and we've also had the help of over 30 interns and student fellows to keep the youth voice within our organization and to allow us to promote mental health as a company culture.
2 minutes remaining.
We even share a company Headspace account, which I use daily. We also have a board of directors and advisors who have 50+ years of industry, clinical, and oversight experience. These advisors help us every single day grow, including EODC mentors that have helped me even this weekend. Also, if you look up here, the woman in pink is the teacher that saved my life many years ago. She's now on our board of directors, and she's a part-time instructor when she's not teaching AP history. My name is Kyrah Altman. I began leveraging my battle with mental illness at age 12. Now at age 22, I work 30 hours a week. I'm a full-time student. I'm expected to graduate in 3 months, thank goodness. My teachers don't see much of me.
1 minute remaining.
And I have a thirst for knowledge. I believe in books, I believe in learning, and my friends joke that they can find me as the wild spring breaker laying on a beach reading another book on entrepreneurship or personal growth. Now, by next year, I intend to move back home, continue supporting and maybe adopting my younger siblings, and continue working as a full-time CEO with LEAD. And with your help, we intend to reach 27,000 students, 23,000 educators, all by 2020. Mental illness is not limited by the extreme cases we see on TV, like gun violence or suicides. Every student in the United States can benefit from coping skills, self-care strategies, and emotional intelligence. Thank you for your time, and please think about a young person that you know. 1 in 5 is at risk. Thank you.
All right, judges, your 10 minutes for Q&A begins now. Go ahead. Please raise your hands, too.
Kyrah, congratulations. It's a well-needed topic, and I applaud you on it. When you think about your scaling, you've talked about having trained the trainer program in California. Can you talk a little bit more about what that expansion is going to look like on a more kind of sequenced way?
Sure. So we offer professional development courses. We also offer longer certification courses. And so individuals actually pay us to become LEAD credentialed instructors. So really using our branding to our advantage, they're able to then go into other industries, into other schools in their part of the country, and then we have a shared revenue model where they receive commission and an instructor payment, but we receive the payment for the course because it's our intellectual property. So that's the train the trainer model as we expand. And right now we have about 5 part-time instructors in that area. Yes.
So I think you said you have 2 other people on your team, a COO and 1 other. Talk about the team and what the different skill sets are, where your strengths are, where you're going to focus versus what you're going to hire for.
Definitely. I feel so grateful to have had the speakers yesterday because I felt like they were literally describing me and my partner. She is a co-founder. We co-founded this organization together. After the Newtown, Connecticut shooting, I called all my friends and said, come, I'll feed you pizza, come to my living room and let's plan something. And that's how it all started. And so she's been with me since day 1. She's been headquartering her fellows and her student interns from her university at Northeastern. And when we both graduate, we'll be full-time employees. Now, she's my yin to my yang because she is calm and thoughtful and systematic and so knowledgeable about curriculum. She could literally name any state or federal framework for health education in her sleep. And I'm here and I have the energy and I have the ideas and the vision. And we really complement one another in that way. Yeah. Yeah.
First, I just want to thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your struggles. I think that's difficult, and thank you for doing that. It's great for ego.
Thank you.
That's kind of who we are. So,
thank you.
With your difficult past, who is your role model?
Luckily, I've had my dad through all of this. He has been a stable figure in my life. He helped me get to treatment earlier on. He's a serial entrepreneur himself, so I'm constantly on the phone with him, learning from him, bragging about him as well. And he has really done the job of two parents because more things happened, and I ended up just living with him when I was about 16 and a half. And so he bought me my prom dress, and he, talks to me about boys and all of the other good stuff. And so business and personal, my dad really has been a strength in my life. And also just to respond on the vulnerability piece, EO really is the first time I've ever shared this story, literally ever. Usually when I talk about it, my voice starts to crack, and it's really difficult for me, especially since a lot of these issues have followed me and are still waiting for me when I come back home. And so for that reason, I really appreciate the environment of EO, and I appreciate the vulnerability, and even just the speakers yesterday helped me to dive even deeper into my story today that I wouldn't have done without that.
First of all, thank you for doing this business. You're doing a great
Thank
service.
you. Thank you.
What are the things that could go wrong?
Yeah.
What are some of the risks? How are you overcoming
Definitely.
those?
So liability risks, for sure. Whenever we work in a school, a summer camp, any organization, we have them sign a very comprehensive MOU that basically says, we do not have liability. This is a complement to your existing training. And if something happens, we are not liable for that. So we're legally protected. We actually have a board director. My AP history teacher used to be a lawyer. And so she helps us with all of our legal paperwork as well. And my dad jokes that with his MOUs that we've modeled ours after, nobody can even, compete with him, even in another country. So we really have that tightened up. Yeah.
Have you looked into ways to make it easier for school districts to pay for it, like to help assist them with grants, et cetera?
Mm-hmm. So we actually right now, and we originally established as a 501c3, but in the next 6 months, we're going to grow a B Corps arm. And the purpose of that is so we can keep accepting donations and grants for low-income schools that cannot afford our necessary services, but we also can scale with investors nationally and really reach as many school districts as possible. And so that B Corps transition is going to be really helpful as we grow and become the industry standard. Yeah.
I love that you have your savior on there as a board member. That's amazing. But I'm curious, if you weren't doing this, and I know why you're doing this, what would you be doing?
I have always loved advocating for those without a voice, whether it is animals in shelters or domestic violence victims or individuals with substance use and addiction problems. I've worked in so many areas, a lot through high school. One of the reasons why I chose mental health was because I realized this was the best way to reach as many people as possible. No matter which audience I worked with, mental illness laid at the bottom of their issues. And so this is my way of kind of touching all of the audiences I care about. But my perfectly honest answer for you is I'd probably be working with animals, since I have been an animal lover since day one. My dog is my best friend in the world, and I would pretty much drop anything for her. So, yeah.
So I think you said you spent 6,000 hours on curriculum development. So how do you know it's good? Is there any certification? And what's the barrier to entry for someone else coming in and doing something?
Definitely. So this curriculum is clinician approved. We have written it with a student voice because we wanted it to be by students, for students, really have relevance to student issues today. And so even though we wrote it by ourselves, we took the help of Tufts medical students in Boston. We also have many clinicians, physicians, mental health clinicians, and even therapists on our board of advisors as well. And they review all of our content, training, and curriculum. We also really make sure that it's comprehensive. So not only does it meet Massachusetts state frameworks, which is where we started, it meets federal frameworks. And so to get a curriculum to that place, it really does take that many hours, that much oversight, and all of that clinical approval. And so that's really how we distinguish ourselves. Also, there are other curriculum out there, but they're typically just mental health focused or just physical health focused. And so we're pretty innovative in that we are creating holistic health education, really bridging the gap boldly that you can't have physical health without mental health and vice versa.
What are your core values?
Oh, resilience. You heard one of my stories today, but it continued. Usually when you come from families or homes of that nature, these things continue in different parts of your life. And so even today, I struggle to see my younger siblings. I actually have to go through my mom's ex-abusive boyfriend to see them. And it's a lot of legal stuff, and it's really difficult. And so I think for me, being resilient and being able to get up in the morning and say, this sucks today, you might be in a horrible mental space, but you're doing something that is changing lives. And now that I can say to my younger siblings, mental illness is okay, knowing that they're at much higher risk for it with our parents, they know that they are safe and they can reach out to me for help. My younger brother actually told me that he was suicidal a few months ago in the summer, and I was so beyond proud of myself because right away I'm like, oh my gosh, big sissy, freaking out, like this is my little brother. Basically raised him as a 9-year-old, and so I view him as my child, and I was so upset. But in that moment, because I'm a youth mental health first aid instructor, and because of my training, I was able to say the right things, and I was able to respond right away, and he looked at me and he heard me, and he understood that I was there for him, and so that was everything for me right there.
Who or what is your competition?
Yeah, so we have a lot of indirect competitors. So like I said, with curriculum, there are a few curriculums that exist. A lot of them are internationally based, not many in the US. If they exist though, they're either physical health focused or mental health focused. As far as training, some bigger mental health organizations provide training, but there's very little evaluation component.
1 minute
So that
remaining.
means that schools can hire them to come in, speak for an hour, and then what, right? Their hands get thrown up in the air. It's temporary, there's no evaluation piece, and there's no continued education piece. And so one thing that we do is we actually have an online group for any individual that's been trained by LEAD in any capacity, where we continuously provide education and articles and support to the individuals that have been trained by us. Also, schools are relying on, one-day assemblies that use scare tactics or a mental health awareness week, but typically these things come after a tragedy has occurred. Very reactive.
Can you think of one particular mistake you've made or something you wish you would have done differently?
Yeah, mistake. I think for a long time, I wouldn't introduce myself as an entrepreneur. Being a female entrepreneur is different. It's a unique experience. And I often found that when I would meet new people, friends, family.
And that's time. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.